there's a lot more to you than who you think you are. And there's a lot more to your entirety or your presence than this part of you that can self-reflect on what you're thinking about and thinking that it is you. Hello friend, John Dalton here for the Emergence podcast, where we go into love, consciousness and the mystery. And in this episode we're going into a question about enlightenment, taking the illusion seriously, dealing with doubt, celebrating the good, and the first 50 years of childhood. So I had a question come in about enlightenment, and this person says, "Hi John, do you think that enlightenment always has to come with some special attributes? Expecting to get those attributes, wouldn't that limit myself?" So I think I understand the question, and it's this idea of, it's part of the first process I do in preparation for the enlightenment training, which is about getting really clear about what enlightenment does for you. Part of that process is about, initially it just starts off as this very wide thing, like enlightenment. It's this thing you've maybe heard about, and maybe I'm kind of interested in it, and then it's kind of going to write all that out, everything you've ever heard about, and then to kind of transpose that into what's really, of all the different attributes I've heard about enlightenment, what are the ones that have to be there for me to consider myself to be enlightened? And it's kind of a process of elimination, of getting rid of the stuff that doesn't really matter. That certainly doesn't really matter to you, because you could start off with levitation, doing miracles, being able to stick your head in the ground and survive, all the sort of things that people who are enlightened, that's been written about that they can do. And kind of going, well, if I can't levitate, will it be the end of the world, or will I not be enlightened? And if it's like, oh, well, it's a good trick and everything, but no, that's not the core of what attracts me to being enlightened. So I can get rid of that, and you can keep kind of getting rid of things as you kind of get down to, what does it mean to me? There's something I heard about, this thing called enlightenment, that just spoke to me. It doesn't speak to everyone, very few people actually, and you can get stuck in the broadness of it and go, oh, that's for other people, and that's for magical, wonderful people. It's not for ordinary people, and certainly not for people who are alive, or it's not possible when you're alive, all that kind of stuff. To bring it from that kind of big vagueness down to, what does it actually mean to me? And do I have the audacity to think that it's possible, that if I point myself towards it, that maybe I could actually get there? And if it grows in you like that, then to not leave it there, but to get more and more specific, and to eliminate the unnecessary attributes that this person's talking about, the levitations, the miracles, all the being happy all the time. It's like, oh, well, it's not so much that, it's, and getting right down to, what does it mean to me? What does this whole idea of enlightenment mean to me? And what is crucial? What's absolutely crucial? Now, that might mean levitating for you, and that's fine. Or it might be some other thing that, I can read people's thoughts, or whatever, some kind of thing that you've heard about. And it's like, no, if I don't have that, I'm not enlightened. And that's fine. But to not just leave it vague, but you just get right down to it, because that helping you get focused on it, and it starts to get it clearer. What's it actually about for me? What is it about this thing, enlightenment, that I heard about, that just speaks to me? And then focus on that. And that's kind of what the enlightenment retreats will be about. It'll be sort of continuing that kind of process, because then once you get clear on that, then you can get into, well, what's the gap? What is the gap between me and this thing that I think exists outside me, you know? And then in relation to the enlightenment retreats, the next thing then is, well, what do you, if you're coming to have an enlightenment retreat with me, what is it about me that you think that I have that you don't have? And getting clearer about that. And all these things helps bring you closer and closer to the possibility of you bridging that gap between where you are and where you think you should be, or where what is outside you, and all going well, realizing that it's inside you all the time. Now, let's have a look at some of the memes on the Further Emergence Instagram feed. The first one, I wrote it, and it says, "Waking life is an illusion. It's most enjoyable if you take it seriously without believing it's real." So there's nothing new about the whole idea that reality is an illusion. The current version of it is, we're living in a simulation. And or a holographic virtual reality thing. And then you go back further into other traditions, and you know, Maya, it's all an illusion. It's a strange thing, isn't it? Like, why would people think that up, you know? I mean, there could be an element of just trying to get away from the difficulties of life, going, this is not real. Yeah, I'm sure that's true. But then there's another thing where there's a sense of it. We have a sense of it. And now everything is geared to make us think that that sense of it is ridiculous. And people talk about, you know, get real, come down to earth, don't be delusional, and all that kind of thing. But your direct experience is somewhat challenging to that. And depending on, you know, what's going on, what can happen is that people can use that idea of it's all an illusion to do what's called spiritual bypass, which basically means using some sort of spiritual truth to avoid some sort of difficulty. So the common kind of thing is, like, when things get difficult and like you fail miserably, or it's all overwhelming, to kind of go, oh, it's all an illusion, man, you know, it's not real, which is another way of saying it doesn't matter. But that's the thing. That's the difficult thing, is to hold both. To hold both, that this is an illusion that we're in. Now, how much you get that is very different from person to person. But let's say you fully know that it's an illusion. That doesn't mean you just discount it, because there are real things that happen in this illusion. And I always kind of go back to simple thing like writing an email. So you could say that an email is not a real thing. It's just bits and bytes, ones and zeros on your computer that you send, and then you know, the other person gets, and it's just ones. It's not a real thing. And that's true. But if you are writing to somebody that you haven't seen in 20 years, and you are telling them that you finally realized how much wrong that you did them, and that you're saying that you're sorry, okay, for example, that what is contained in that illusionary email, that's very real. That's very significant. And the other person receives it at the other end, and they're crying, or whatever, you know, effect that it has. That's kind of the same here. So most, in my experience anyway, and as I experience reality, most of it is not real and is forgettable, because it all kind of disappears every night. But love and communication, they seem to be constant. They seem to be real. So it's almost like this giant chat room that we're all in. We get to interact with each other, and we get to talk and say things, and we get to communicate something. This is how it looks to me. This is how I feel. I love you. I am very upset at you. Whatever it is. But we have this interaction here. That seems to be real. And then the deep love that comes up inside me in response to what happens here, that seems real as well. Everything else, for me anyway, has got a big question mark over it. So it's, as I say, it's holding these two things of it. Yes, it's an illusion, and some days it can feel more of an illusion than others. But that's not to discount it. It's to take it seriously, like you would a game or going to the cinema. Again, it's a simple kind of analogy. But if you went to a cinema, particularly these days, because we don't go to the cinemas half as much as we used to. So if you go to the trouble of actually going to a cinema to watch a movie, you don't sit there going, this is not real, man. It's not real. It's just, to the people behind you, it's just shadows. It's just shadows on the wall, right? You go there because you want to have the experience of it. So you're, in a way, taking the movie seriously within the context of, okay, we're going to turn the lights down, everybody. We're going to, we're all going to keep quiet. We're going to focus. We're going to get into it. It's kind of the same. So it's to hold these two things, is to equally, at the other end of the spectrum, it's not like going, oh my God, that person is going to die. Oh my God, they hit them really hard. Oh my God, he just killed that guy. It's like, calm down, it's just a movie. So these two things are always going back and forth. It's like, yes, it's an illusion. And the more that you can see that it's an illusion, the more you can see through the curtain and begin to see the deeper things, the more real things behind the illusion. That's brilliant. That's beautiful. But it's to see that, and then also to take it seriously, participate, contribute, enjoy the movie, fully get into the movie, fully get into the illusion. No, but still know it's an illusion, which is, like most things in the spiritual life, a balancing act of paradox. But it's all beautiful. The next one says, who are you to doubt yourself? Like most memes, this is deceptively simple. Who are you to doubt yourself? It's kind of like you read that and go, oh, that's lovely, isn't it? Who am I to doubt myself? Yes, I mustn't doubt myself. But there's a lot more to it, because it kind of speaks to this thing of, who are you? Or who is this construct that has opinions about itself? Because there's so much that's compressed onto us about our identity of, I am, very early on we learn to say, I am, I want, I think, this is mine, all this kind of thing. And it's almost like going around this structure that we never really look at. Not really, because it's just assumed. It's just assumed because your parents would have just assumed it as well. This thing of, who is this I? Who is this I you keep talking about? And it comes from this thing of like, well, you just wake up into consciousness and you're like, this experience is I. This, what I wake up and then suddenly I am this is my name, this is my house, this is my body, and so it's all me. And we just kind of think that that's it, it's just a thing. So this meme, this idea of who are you to doubt yourself, is very, it begins to deconstruct that if you approach it in the right way, meaning, who is doubting who here, right? Who is the thing that is doubting the other thing that also thinks it's a thing? Now, if you put I back into all that, then it all makes sense. Who am I to doubt myself, right? But if you kind of go, yeah, but where is it every night? Where is this I that I seem to think is so important and so real? Where is it if it just disappears every night in deep dreamless sleep? Okay, I go into sleep, I'm thinking, and then I'm dreaming, and everything's great, and I'm having the deeper dreams, and it's still me. Okay, maybe I don't have the same body anymore, maybe now I can fly, or maybe now I'm a pirate, but it's still me. And that idea of a me-ness is still, because it's like, oh, I am having an experience, because I am reflecting back on, well, this is me, and oh, I'm a bit afraid, and I'm a bit this, and whatever. But then eventually that you go through that into deep dreamless sleep, you just pop out the bottom of it, and then there's nothing. It's just gone. So who is it that's having this dream if at some point they just cease to exist? And the thing is, it doesn't bother us. Okay? So we're self-reflecting on ourselves, going, oh, I'm having the dream, I'm having the life, I'm having the, it's all this feeling of like, oh, well, I'm here, I'm present, so that means it's me. And this idea of who are you to doubt yourself begins to push that a little bit and go, there's a lot more to you than who you think you are. And there's a lot more to your entirety or your presence than this part of you that can self-reflect on what you're thinking about and thinking that it is you. And you kind of can see this really clearly in meditation when you stop thinking, meaning you turn off the pictures and you turn off the sound. You do that often enough and you begin to come around to the side of the thoughts and you go, I thought that was me. I thought I was worrying about the gas bill. I thought I was bitching about my friend who, didn't invite me to their birthday party. I thought that was me. But now I'm standing to the side of it and I can see it. And if I can see this thought, it can't be me because I'm observing it. I'm seeing it. 2 seconds ago I was sure it was me going, he didn't invite me to his party. I feel so wounded. I'm hurt. I've got hurt feelings about it, right? Now I'm stood to the side of it going, well, I couldn't be that thought because I'm seeing it. And if I'm seeing it, I can't be it. And it's kind of the same. If you do that enough times, you begin to see that all this construct of a me and of a personality and of an identity is made up of a lot of bubbles, that coagulate. That doesn't sound great. That are in a conglomeration, and they feel like they are a thing. It's kind of like you could say we're told like our body is made up of cells, and that when you get into the cells, they're made up of atoms. So really, I'm just this body is just a big collection of atoms that happen to just decide to make a particular shape. It's kind of the same with what we call me. Now, that's not to say that you don't exist. Of course you exist. But coming back to this thing of who are you to doubt yourself, begins to kind of go, this part of you that's doubting yourself is actually just the same thing. It's just itself reflecting back on itself. It's splitting itself into two in a way, and this part is going, oh, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this, and this other part's going, oh no, I really want to, I hope I can, oh, I don't think you can do it, But really, when you follow the two lines back, it's the same thing, and it doesn't really exist, and it doesn't really exist because it disappears every night, Whereas your presence and the essence of who you are, the part of you that gets to the side of your thoughts when you're meditating and go and can see yourself, you can see those thoughts that calls itself a self and it calls itself yourself, those thoughts, that part of you is constant, okay? That's the part of you that remains present as you go into deep dreamless sleep or the mystery. Now, you don't remember it because remembering is part of the, or I don't remember it anyway, because remembering is part of this, this very believable reality that we're in. And remembering meaning joining up moments, nows, because everything is just now. But the idea of memory is like joining up all the nows backwards and go, oh, that's history, that's what happened in the past. And then, projecting forward into imagined future moments into, well, that's the future, And so it's kind of like it's going along, going, oh, this is me, I'm having a dream. And then it drops, that bit just drops away. Yet your presence, the presence that was just observing, the presence that sometimes you have it, or I have it anyway, when I wake up in the morning, I'm not fully, I haven't put myself all together. I'm just there, and maybe my eyes are open, but usually not. But I know, yes, I'm somewhere. I'm in sheets, I'm in sleep, I'm in lying. I could feel things. Oh yeah, that's right, I've got a body. And slowly I put it all back together. But that presence, I haven't started going, I am me and I have these problems and I have this personality. It's a bit before that where I'm just kind of blank or just present, You can get a glimpse of it as well in flow state. You're playing tennis. Not me, because if I play tennis, I'm never going to flow state because I'm rubbish at it. But you're playing something, you're making a painting, maybe you're playing a piece of music or whatever, and just time disappears and you're just in the activity of what you're doing. And time goes very fast, and then you kind of snap out of it, and then the self-reflection thing comes back and all the idea of a personality comes back. So how all that's helpful, because that's all a little bit kind of conceptual, but how it's helpful is because when you doubt yourself, it hurts a bit. It's a bit like sucks all the energy down, doesn't it? It's just like, oh God, can I do this thing? Oh God, I hope I can do it. I think I can do it. I really want to do it. It's to kind of go, if you can, step to the side of it a little bit and go, who's doubting who here? Because your mind doesn't really care what it thinks about. It just likes to think. It likes to be thinking because then it feels like it's alive. So doubting yourself feels very personal and very like, oh, I really hope I can do it. And then, oh, I don't know if you can. It's like, oh, but I really want to. When if you can get to the side of it a little bit and go, this is just two parts of the same thing talking to each other, and none of them actually relate to me, because I will just do what I do, and it will either work out the way I would like it to work out, or it won't. I'll hold the intention of the way I want it to work out, but at the end, I will just do it. I'll just take the action, and it'll either go one way or the other. And this thing that's having a conversation about it, and me and my worth and whether I'm capable and whether I should be doubting myself or not, is completely, surplus to requirements. The next one says, let's celebrate in case something good happens. The idea of celebrating just in case something good happens, that's beautiful, isn't it? And it's a total spin on the whole thing. We sort of wait. We wait, okay? I'm not going to celebrate. We hold it off. We kind of go, no, let's wait. It's almost like a little reward. We'll celebrate as a little reward for when things go well. And this idea of let's celebrate in case something good happens, it's like, it kind of goes against a very puritanical vibe of like, no, we must not celebrate, And it's beautiful because it's like, if you celebrate on the off chance that something good is going to happen, it means that you can spend a lot of time celebrating. But the thing I also really like about it is it just goes against the way we are predisposed towards, what people call, even if something good happens, people won't celebrate because they're like, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, or I'm waiting for the hammer to fall, or whatever. And it's because, we all have trauma. We all have things that happen to us that make us want to protect ourselves from future disappointment, from future heartbreak. But that sucks all the marrow and the juice out of life if you're continually protecting yourself against heartbreak or continually protecting yourself against disappointment, because it doesn't work. Things happen. And often what's crazy is the things that happen are, you don't even think about them. You kind of, my mind will kind of come up with all these great plans to protect me from this thing and that other thing and this other thing, and none of the things that I've been spent all this time trying to protect myself from happen. And then this thing comes out of the nowhere and steamrollers me. So it's like, no, no, I don't want to feel all that. But it's like, you can't avoid it. It just comes or it doesn't. I mean, you can set intentions. That's very powerful to set intentions. This is how I want the day to go. But things happen, right? But this idea of, let's celebrate in case something good happens. It's so radical. It's so like, what? I can't do that. What about if something, I'm preparing for the bad thing that happens. It's like, yeah, well, why not prepare for the good thing? What difference does it make? Because it's all random. Anything could happen. Something could drop out of the sky on me, right? I don't think that, but it could. Like, I'm here and out in the nature, but anything can happen at any time. So you don't know. So if you don't know, then kind of holding in a little tight little life, a little protected little life, or the illusion of a little protected life, it doesn't protect you anyway. So if you can celebrate on the off chance that something good is going to happen, then you have a kind of, I think, you bring it a little bit closer to you, the good thing that maybe you have no justification for celebrating. So yeah, I think this is brilliant. It's a great idea. Let's celebrate in case something good happens. And then the last one says, the first 50 years of childhood are always the hardest. How different would our society be if we operated from this idea that the first 50 years of childhood are the hardest? Because that is what's actually going on. But we don't think of it like that. We think of it, we operate on a different framework. We operate under the framework of, you become an adult. By the time you're 10, it's kind of, expectations start to creep in of like, okay, you should be growing up a bit. And by the time, as you progress through your teens, by the time you hit 18 or 19 or 20 or 21, it's like, well, you're an adult now. That's it now. All playtime's over. Kind of get serious, got to get down to it. And I particularly feel this in relation to trauma, because you can spend at least 50 years until age 50 dealing with your childhood trauma. Because, I work with people all the time, and I have done for like 30 years. And it is very rare that somebody doesn't have something going on that goes back to their childhood. And one of the difficult things about childhood is that it's not a neutral thing, meaning your parents were youngish when they had you, probably, and they were still dealing with their trauma without realizing it, their childhood trauma. And you're, re-traumatizing or traumatizing you, and then it's too confronting for them to face that. So they generally will tell you you're loved, all your needs are met, and you had a good childhood. And they'll tell you that a lot. Most parents. So as you get on in life, you get to 20, you get to 30, you're like, why am I having all these strange behaviors? Why am I doing all this stuff? And it begins to creep in. Maybe you go and see a therapist. Maybe they'll help you begin to kind of get a different perspective on your childhood. And maybe you'll kind of go, because you feel disloyal. You love your parents and you don't want to be disloyal to them. But, there's no space in that for you. There's plenty of space for your parents, and you just make yourself wrong. Because that's the other thing about childhood, is what happens in childhood, okay? whatever age, you kind of think this would happen in, when you're 6, 7, 8, but it doesn't. It happens when you're a baby. And what it is right, you reach a point where you realize something happens and your parents frighten you in some way or another. And so what happens is the thing that you want to come to you to help you because they've helped you with everything else is also the thing you're trying to get away from. So your parent scares you, and that could be like they just ignore you. Maybe they get angry, maybe they shout, maybe they do something, but you're afraid of them for that instant. So the thing that normally you want to come towards you for comfort and safety is the thing you want to get away from. That's hard to deal with as an adult. So a little baby, that just kind of is going to melt your brain. So what we do then is go, this person, these two people are responsible, or I rely on them to nourish me with love and food and warmth. And basically, without these two, I'm dead. And they are behaving irrationally. Okay? They are crazy people. That's one option. But that is very overwhelming to go, yeah, that's what's happening. I'm the sane one here. I can hardly work this body, but I am the sane one here. Okay. That's too hard to deal with, because then it's kind of like I am powerless in a crazy world. That's too much for a little baby brain. So what we do is, no, it's probably not them. It's probably me. I probably did something here. I probably, it's something to do with what I did. Let me just review what I did. Maybe I made a mistake, And the reason we do that is we can deal with that, because that's just me and me. And I can bend myself into whatever shape I think I need to never get them to react like that again, because it's awful. So it's all me, and it's contained within me, and that's how we survive. Okay, of course, we have multiple examples of this happening. So we're bending ourselves into further knots on the inside. And that's fine. That's a perfectly understandable survival mechanism. That's how we get through the part where we are reliant on them. But the difficulty is we have no idea of time, and we never put an expiration date on the kinks and contortions that we put ourselves into. So part of it is our parents telling us, we love you, and you've had a very happy childhood because we did everything for you. Look at what we sacrificed for you, and so on. So you're like, yes, okay. And any feelings of maybe you didn't do such a great job, or maybe there were gaps or anything like that, that's like part of, oh, well, that's me. I'm the problem here. So I've got to, it's not them, it's me. So when you begin to clear, when the fog begins to clear on that, and you go, look, my parents are great people, I love them, but this bit wasn't great, and this other bit wasn't great. And you know what, from in my experience, I had a pretty terrible childhood. I didn't have a good childhood at all. I know they were doing their best, I'm not judging them, but I have to see it the way it is, because I can't move forward while I'm still denying my experience. So that's the current model we have. If we had this other model of the first 50 years of childhood are the hardest, then there's plenty of space. There's years and years of space to kind of go through it, to let go of any feelings of disloyalty that you might have, because it's not disloyal to just see things the way you are and to begin to tap into what your actual experience was. That's not to say you go and confront your parents and have the big conversation and you did this and you did that. Yeah, sure, if you want to, but it generally doesn't go great, because your poor old parents are dealing with their trauma as well. Like with trauma, it's a little bit like cars on a highway, and somewhere in the distance somebody brakes, and the person runs into them, so on, and you're in the front car and someone rear ends you, And it's like you can look back and kind of go back and blame your parents, blame your grandparents, so on. Then you get into ancestral trauma and all that kind of thing. The main thing is whether you're going to put the brakes on it, whether you're going to stop it going forward and you're not going to rear end the generation in front of you. I think that's the main thing, because you can go back. There's no end to it. The line of cars just keeps going back. So if you can give yourself the space to look at your childhood clearly and just to yourself go, it was awful. I had an awful childhood. Now, you don't have to say that to your parents unless you really want to, but bear in mind, being compassionate to them, they maybe just haven't got to that place where they can go, yeah, well, mine was pretty terrible too. Because you can be sure that your childhood, bad as it was better than your parents. Okay, I haven't come across it yet. And that's not to say it doesn't exist, but I haven't come across it yet where, the parents had a beautiful childhood and then they inflicted this terrible childhood on their children. Generally, things get better. The childhood, you had was better than your parents, and your parents' childhood, you can, it's a safe bet to say that your parents' childhood was better than their parents, which would be your grandparents, and so on. So things generally get better. But having this idea of first 50 years are the hardest, it just sort of, doesn't it? When you think about it, for me anyway, it's like okay, 50 years. I've got 50 years to work it out. Because when you compress it into after 10 years, it's like, okay, you should probably be an adult now and just forget about your childhood. You've got no time and space to kind of process what's happened and to heal and to turn off all these behaviors, survival mechanisms that you put in place that helped you survive. And the reason it's so difficult to see them is because we are conditioned to kind of feel like, well, I'm an adult now. I shouldn't be behaving irrationally. I shouldn't be doing what's called self-sabotage. I shouldn't be doing this. I should be, what the hell is wrong with me? It's like, well, you didn't know when you made this compensation pattern to survive, you didn't put an expiration date on it because you didn't know how, because you didn't know about time. If you think about a baby, 6-month-old baby, it doesn't know anything about time. It's only lived for 6 months. It's like, I just need to get through this moment, and for the baby, it's an eternal kind of moment, like if you said to a 70-year-old person, this project has been delayed, but it'll be done next year. The 70-year-old person is going, will go, okay, whatever. You say that to a 1-year-old child, this pain that you're in, it's difficult, I understand, but it's only going to last for another year. 1-year-old child, if they could talk like that, they'd be like, 1 year, so I have to live my whole life again before this pain stops? Like that. I was thinking like that because it gives you an idea of the way our brains work when we're kids, is time in terms of time. So the idea of a future time when you're not going to need this survival doesn't even enter our head. So we just make these open-ended things, So this idea of first 50 years of childhood, it's beautiful because it gives so much space and compassion to ourselves. And that's really what you need to begin to heal this stuff. All right, well, that's all I have for you this time. I trust you're well. I trust you're of good cheer. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.